Hi guys, and welcome back to another championship video. Round 36 here, quick recap on round 35, one score correct, Bournemouth beating Stoke 2-1. Let's get in to my predictions. And to start us off, it's two teams going in very different directions. Huddersfield take on Peterborough. And Huddersfield, they're up to third in the league now. Unbeaten in 15 games, and they've won 3 in a row. They're in brilliant form, and they don't really look like they're going to be stopped anytime soon. Peterborough, they've lost 3 in a row, and they haven't won in 11 games. It's looking very, very bleak for them now. Looking like they're going to get relegated. New manager took over, Grant McCann. Didn't really make a difference against his former club. Lost 3-0. So, Peterborough just can't get anything going. And I think they're done now. I think they're going to be the first team to, be officially relegated. I think they're going to finish bottom of the league. And they're not really seeming to put up much of a fight. A lot of teams come to this stage of the season and have a little bit of a form boost. Doesn't seem to be happening there. Whether it's yet to come, who knows? But I think when it does come, if it does, it will be too late. For this game, I'm going to go Huddersfield win 2-0. Two teams up next, fighting for a playoff position. Sheffield United versus Nottingham Forest. Now Sheffield United, they lost 1-0 to Millwall after 9 games unbeaten. So this is all about seeing if they can bounce back in a difficult game. Nottingham Forest, they're unbeaten in 4 and they've only lost 1 out of 8. So two teams in good form. It's going to be a tough one to call. That's why I'm sitting on the fence, down the middle, 1-1. Fulham take on Blackburn next. And Fulham, they've won 2 in a row, but they've only scored 5 goals in their last 4 games, which isn't something that we'd associate with Fulham this season. They have been absolutely smashing teams, so many goals. So it is a bit low. The goals do seem to be drying up, but they're still getting wins. And unless something drastically changes, they are going to win the league this season. Coming up against the Blackburn team that hadn't won in 5, but then beat QPR 1-0, and QPR are a team fighting for those playoff spots. The game that they won before that, 1-0 against Middlesbrough, another team fighting for those playoff spots. So when it comes to those big important games against those teams around the playoffs, they are getting those little wins, but they just need to try and build on that now, because they will drop out of the playoff spots unless their form picks up. I don't think they're going to get anything here. Fulham are a very hard side to beat, so I'm going to go Fulham win 2-1. Bristol City take on Blues next, and Bristol City lost 2 in a row, and they've only won 2 out of their last 8 games. Blues, we've lost 2 in a row as well, against Reading and Huddersfield. And it's not looking good at the moment. We've dropped down to 20th position. We had a makeshift back 4 of 2 wingers at fullback and 2 fullbacks at centre-back. One of those, Maxim Collin, got injured in the last game, had to come off, which meant central midfielder Gary Gardner had to play centre-back for the majority of the game. Hence why we lost against Huddersfield. As soon as that happened, we didn't stand a chance. But good news on the horizon. Looks like some centre-backs should be back for this game, or at least the game after. All depends on our starting lineup if we actually have some centre-backs there. I think if we do, we can win this game. We beat them earlier on in the season, 3-0, and it was a brilliant performance. And Bristol City looked terrible in that game. They have picked up since. Andreas Weimann has been in good form for them. And they do seem to carry an attacking threat, even if they're not that good defensively. Sounds similar to us because we can score goals when we've got Lyle Taylor, Hernandez and Bakuna all in the side linking up. And Tahith Chong and Richards are looking like they're going to be back in the lineup very soon, potentially this game. So I'm going to go all out. I think Blues can win this as long as we've got some centre-backs. And I'm praying that we do. So Blues to win 2-1. Undoubtedly, the biggest game of the weekend up next. Derby take on Barnsley. This is a 6-pointer if there ever was one. Derby, they were really within touching distance of safety. They were so close. I think the gap was only 4 points. They've lost 3 in a row, and Reading's upturn of form has left them quite far adrift and in need of a miracle, really. Plus, it doesn't help them that a lot of teams around them do have games in hand. Some teams above them also have games in hand, which just means that that gap is going to get even bigger if their form doesn't improve. Barnsley won 2 in a row. The latest one was a 3-2 win against Middlesbrough. What a massive win that is. And they've won 3 out of their last 4. This really, I think, is the decider for Derby's season. Barnsley have a few extra games, so I think Barnsley have enough time. But Derby need to win this at all costs. And I don't think it's going to happen. I'm going to go similar to how Derby Peterborough played out a few weeks back. I said Derby would win 1-0. They had more quality, but it was always going to be tight because Derby wouldn't want to give anything away. Both teams would focus on defending before attacking. Think it will be similar here, but I don't think Derby are going to get that 1-0 victory. Barnsley to win 1-0. Hull take on West Brom next, and Hull won 3-0 against Peterborough in an important game because if they'd lost that, it would close the gap a bit and it would look like Hull were in a bit of trouble. Won it 3-0, they now look safe, and that came after not winning in 6. So very, very important for them. West Brom have lost 6 out of their last 7 games, and they've only scored 1 in that time. West Brom's playoff dreams are over by the looks of it. Unless they go on and win every game from now on, it looks like they're going to be a championship side next season. Steve Bruce hasn't had the impact he was supposed to. He's really struggled there. And I don't actually think they'll keep him in charge next season, given the results that they've got. I'm going to go West Brom to get a point out of this, but really, they should be winning it. Look at the quality difference, but they're not performing at the moment and they can't put the ball in the back of the net. 1-1. Middlesbrough versus Luton is next up, and this is similar to the Sheffield United v Nottingham Forest game, as it's so important in that top 6 race. Middlesbrough, they have lost 2 out of their last 3. The last one was a 3-2 loss to Barnsley, but they did knock Spurs out of the FA Cup 1-0 in extra time. Massive result to knock out a team like Spurs, and they're now into the quarter-final. Their form in the league has dropped off a bit, because if it hadn't, and if they'd won one of those games they'd lost, they'd be in a playoff position right now. Luton, they've won 5 out of their last 6, and 3 in a row, and they're looking very, very strong, and they've actually snuck into the playoffs in 6th position. Can they hold on to that till the end of the season? Well, this game is such a big match, I don't really know how to call it, so I'm going to go down the middle, but a bit of excitement, 2-2. Preston take on Bournemouth next, and Preston drawn 2 in a row against Nottingham Forest and Coventry. Bournemouth won 4 in a row, and they're looking like they're going to get that automatic promotion spot now. They've got a lot of games in hand over the teams below them, and I think that gap is only going to get bigger. Second place, I think, goes to Bournemouth. For this match, I think Bournemouth will carry on their winning run 2-1. QPR versus Cardiff now, and QPR, they've won 1 out of their last 6 games. They looked nailed on for the playoffs before that, but this little bad run of form, if it continues, could mean they're going to miss out on the playoffs. And they lost their last game 1-0 to Blackburn. Such an important game for both sides. Blackburn won it, and it puts even more pressure on QPR. Cardiff, they won 1-0 against Derby. Big game, near the bottom, to move up to 18th. And they've won 5 out of their last 9. Very good form for a team down there. And I think they're safe now. For this game, I think QPR will get back to winning ways. And I'm going to go, the score I was always going for QPR, to keep the opposition out, and low scoring. QPR win 1-0. Reading versus Millwall next. And Reading, they'd won 2 in a row. Then they lost 4-1 to Blackpool. They were 1-0 up in that game, and if they'd have won it, you'd have sort of looked at it and thought, there's a big enough gap there. They're looking like they're going to cruise to safety. Losing that game just makes it a bit more interesting down at the bottom of the table. Millwall, they've won 4 in a row, and they beat Sheffield United 1-0 in their last game, and they were unbeaten in 9. Could Millwall be an outside shot for the playoff positions? I know it looks very, highly unlikely with so many good teams up there, but they are in a solid vein of form, and they've got it at the tail end of the season. I feel like a team normally does sneak in there right at the end. Could they be that team? For this game, I think Millwall will win it and carry on their good run towards the playoffs. Millwall win 2-1. Stoke take on Blackpool next, and Stoke not won in 4 and lost their last 2 games by a 2-1 scoreline. Blackpool, they hadn't won in 4, but then they went and beat Reading 4-1, impressive performance, and the 2 that they'd lost had been in the last minutes against QPR and Bournemouth. So Blackpool are in good form and they're a hard team to beat. Stoke, I'm seeming to associate with a lot of draws recently, and that's the way I think this is going to go. 1-1. Our last game is Swansea versus Coventry. And Swansea, they have won 3 out of their last 5. Their last game, a 2-0 win away at West Brom. Coventry, they've only lost 1 out of their last 6, and they're unbeaten in 3. They were in very good form at the start of the season, held a playoff spot for quite a while, went for a bit of a bad patch, dropped out, but it looks like they're back in form. Could they be the team to get a playoff spot? Comment down below who your top 2 are and which 4 teams are going to finish in the playoff spots. Interested to see what your thoughts are on who's going to get in, whether it's, teams that are in bad form end up dropping out, whether they recover, whether teams like Millwall can really rise up that high. Interested to find out, so make sure you comment down below. This game, I'm going to go 1-1. So those are my predictions for this weekend's championship fixtures. Let me know down below in the comments what your predictions are. Please like the video, subscribe and hit the notification bell for more championship content. Up the Blues.